Welcome to the Out of Spec Podcast. We are back again with another week full of stories, such as a brief retouch on the Lamborghini Countach. Now that we know a thing or two about it, the 2023 Nissan Z has finally been relatively fully unveiled. The GR86 is making news. Genesis has a new GV60, interesting little thing there with EV capabilities. So we'll get right into it. I'm joined here by Domenick Yoney from the Inside EVs forum podcast, that whole realm. Of course, we got Mike Breeling and Kyle Connor. Let's dive right in. We talked about the Lamborghini Countach last week, of course, right before all the details came out about it. So I wanted to really quickly touch on it just as a second little bit of getting your thoughts now that we know more about the photos and even the drivetrain and everything. Do any of you have thoughts?
Yes, of course. I will go against the grain and say I absolutely love it. Most people, for some reason, are not liking this thing. I saw Matt Farah was tweeting, he owns an original Countach. He said, this is a sham, total fake. You just shouldn't do this. It's basically an Aventador, but then with like a little bit weird styling. And what really sold me was our friends at Motor One ran a story where I think it was a little bit of CGI where they put on the original Holy wheels and a nice wing. And I was like, oh, damn, that's the car. So you get a Countach, you already have money, of course, and you just mod it out to look better. And then you have your original Countach, because we all know the original Countach didn't drive very well. And at least on a warm day, this shouldn't melt itself. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, some of the complaints are, especially in the rear end for some reason. I've heard multiple people say it's too simple, but like if you see the original Countach, like if you dumb it down, it's so boring. Like it is a icon. It's been on posters of millions of people's walls from the 70s, but I don't know. I love the direction they took. I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm not really understanding all the criticism, and it points again to the fact that literally anything any car manufacturer does that's going to have a lot of hate, it's either not going to be pure enough or too pure, like
well,
too dumbed down.
You say that, but we'll talk about it later in the show. The Nissan Z, I've not seen any hate about this car. It's been all love. So maybe that's not so accurate. Domenick, what do you think about this?
The Countach?
Yeah.
I hate to agree with Matt Farah, but when I first saw it, I'm like, it looks like a Huracan with a styling job or something. I mean, it looks a little better as you go around it, but
not digging it, are you?
Actually, the rear looked not so bad. I didn't mind the rear.
So you like the rear, the part that most people don't?
Well, yeah.
There you go. We all knew you were blind from the start. So,
right.
This just proves it.
I mean, I haven't taken like a super, super good look at it, but just like that was my first impression. I was like, oh, it looks like a contemporary Lamborghini. There's no getting around. It looks very contemporary and like what they already make, but with some, styling jibes to kind of, give it that Countach feel a bit. I'm not sure if it went. It's just not all as crazy looking as a Countach was originally. At the time when the Countach first came out, it really kind of broke with tradition, and it broke. This doesn't really do that so much.
Yeah, I agree with that. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I actually agree with Domenick. I like the back of the car more than the front. From almost every photo you see of it, and it was the Motor One article where you mentioned where they put that spoiler on it and put those original wheels on. That's when I really was like, yeah, that's a car that's worth $2 million now.
Right. Yeah. It looked good in that rendering. Jordan, I wonder if you're going to be able to pull it up for our YouTube audience. If you go in the search function of the site, you should be able to search Countach, and then you'll see a bunch of posts about the car. You can find one that'll show some renderings. Yeah, look, the interesting thing about this car is Lamborghini has now moved to electric assist. So they use a mild hybrid system. I believe it's 34 kilowatts or something like this, 34 horsepower, one of the two. And it actually, seems to be a pretty useful system. Now, of course, all the purists are up in arms. They're like, well, the current Aventador is like the last naturally aspirated V12 non-electrically assisted car. And look, to a point, I have to agree with them. I think that's the way a Lamborghini should be. That right there, to our YouTube audience, that is hot. Yep. I don't care what anyone says. That's amazing.
I like the wing. The wing helps.
Yep.
The wing helps a lot. Yes.
And you guys know I don't really care about car styling, but this is like, damn. Because to me, a good looking car is like a boxy Land Rover. And, no one thinks that looks good. This looks amazing here. Really cool. And maybe that's because I really think that the Countach was the best looking Lamborghini of all time. Diablo, very controversial for a lot of people. I love it. That was on the poster when I was a kid. And so Diablo is more my generation, but I still think Countach was amazing, and I'm honestly glad they did this car. I like that there's controversy around it. I like that they're putting themselves in the forefront, and I honestly like this electric boost system. I'd totally be into that.
Yeah,
I like the Aventador better. Aventador SVJ Roadster.
Oh,
yeah, I also loved the Diablo, and this actually reminds me maybe a bit more of the Diablo than the Countach. But the Countach, I mean, this doesn't really grasp the original mentality of the Countach, where it is like trying to spearhead something. Like, I feel like if Lamborghini had gone full electric with this, they could have made that argument of we're trying to spearhead a new generation, which they aren't, because a lot of people have already done that.
Too expensive. You have to think about it. They have to milk everything they can out of this chassis, right? They're a small company. And so that you have to just squeeze every last drop out of this chassis, get all the new customers, and then they'll move on to a new platform. But new platforms that are not just, it's not like we're talking about a new Nissan Sentra here. This has to be a supercar that's crazy fast and handle top speed. This is so much money of engineering and talent inside of Volkswagen Group that's already going through a ton of internal changes right now. Bugatti being sold off. It's going to be a hard task to say, we want to make another V12 in a brand new chassis to a company that's committed to electric feature. So I think they're doing everything they can over there. They're holding on to every last drop of hope of the combustion supercar. And I think they made the right choice here, personally. I know a lot of people disagree.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
what's the sticker on this?
A lot of numbers, but I don't think it's astronomical, right? Is it?
I thought it was 3 million.
Ooh, that's more than
I didn't realize it was that much.
No, they were just, I think it was just over 2 million, but they've sold them all. They made like 119 of them, guaranteed, and they've all sold out. All of them, yeah, gone.
That's the power of Lamborghini right there.
I mean, and I will guarantee everyone that bought them are the people who had them on their walls as a child and now have very successful careers and can now buy, a lot of people who buy these also have the original. I'll probably make that case.
And I bet it's going to increase the price of the original. Everyone's going to want the pairing who already doesn't have the pairing.
Yeah.
Or their uncles own the original because they were born in the money.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we're going to see a lot of white and red ones.
Let's bring it down a step in terms of price, and let's look at the 2023 Nissan Z, which is just called the Z, right? It's not the 400Z.
It's just the Z.
Correct.
Another Motor One article. There's Clint.
Yep. So
the 400, that stands for the horsepower?
So that was for the concept, and no one confirmed what the 400 was, but it went 350 2 generations ago, then 370, and then the 400Z concept, and now it's just the Z. Or maybe it was called the Z Proto, but everyone was calling it 400Z. I don't know. Anyway, let me hit you with the headlines on this one. 400 horsepower, 2 spoolie turbos, 6 cylinders, manual transmission, rear-wheel drive, and a very happy piece of meat in the driver's seat driving this thing. I think this just solves all of the problems we've been wanting to be solved. We don't know the price, but let's just assume it's going to be reasonable. We wanted a reasonably priced, enthusiast-built, turbocharged, manual transmission, fun car to go rip around in. And guess what? Nissan has delivered. It's not all positive, though. It does look incredible. It looks just like the concept. I've been able to spend time with the concept. I'll be spending time on track with this car by the time this show goes live, basically the next day. So I'll be ripping it around with some of their drivers, and we'll be producing videos with it. So I'm looking forward to that. looks amazing, but it's still kind of based on the old chassis, which we'll see how well they can adapt it for. It's a different suspension design, I'm sure different tires, totally different drivetrain, but the chassis is not that evolved. And that goes back to the Lamborghini conversation we had. How much can they stretch out of this chassis before they have to do a full platform redesign? And I think Nissan took the right approach here. I think everyone uses the older chassis as beater drift cars, and they take the abuse really well. And, maybe the engine's not going to sound that great. I bet it's the same 400 horsepower in like the Q60 Red Sport that we drove. It's not the most engaging engine, but it's going to be, moddable, tunable, and I think a really important car for this generation.
It's not like Nissan has tons of buckets of money to, spend on a new chassis. But
That's what I was going to say.
And they've redesigned their entire product lineup, like seemingly in the last 12 months. Like everything is just being redesigned.
It was needed.
Badly needed.
Yeah.
Jordan, you're a sports car motoring enthusiast. However, when we had the Supras, you wanted the slow one, so I do question your judgment. What do you think about this?
So I've never really been a big Z fan. I actually liked the old ones, like 240, 300. But the 350 was such an incredible departure, and I didn't really like the styling. It just was never my kind of car. I appreciated it. I liked seeing that people use them. I love seeing them at autocross events. But this like fixes the 350/370Z for me, as far as styling. And I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like I'm almost like a weird compliment to Kyle, where I focus so much on styling. I literally hyper focus on the design, the art around it. And I really like this. I mean, the Z Proto really caught my eye. It's like you can see the similarities to the 370Z. It's not a complete departure, and I think that's good. They played it safe, which is why it's not really getting any crazy hate. They didn't try to go like dramatically back to like sharp angles like the older Z cars. They kept the curves but made it more, I don't know, they did grab a bit from the Z cars just with the headlights and the taillights, and I like that. And that's honestly what I hated.
The taillights are the best part. Look at that back end. You get a sloping roof. I mean, this thing is badass, and I love it in yellow in particular. Like the concept was shown. And if you go a couple photos over, you'll see one in yellow shown. Man, this is going to be great. We're going to be reporting on it. Make sure you stay tuned to our Out of Spec Reviews channel, where we're going to be able to hopefully get it a startup, a rev, a drive, and a ride around the track. And then, of course, we'll be hopefully among one of the first to get to experience the car and showcase what it's like when you do a little slidey stuff, of course. Right, Jordan? Oh, maybe he didn't hear me. We're going to do some drifting in it either way. Mike, what do you think about this?
So I was never a big fan of the 350 or 370Z. I didn't think they looked that great. I've driven plenty of each generation. I did not like the way the gear change was. I didn't really ever like the automatic. I always thought they were uncomfortable. They just felt cheap inside. They looked cheap. So it's definitely not a car for me. I know that they have a huge following, and dynamically on a track, they have always generally been pretty competent. And then Nissan goes and announces this new Z that they're going to make. And I was a little skeptical. Truth be told, I was not expecting anything spectacular to come out of it. And then I saw the Z Proto concept, and I said, wow, Nissan knocked it out of the park with their design. That car looks amazing. And to see that the real thing looks so close to the concept, where a lot of manufacturers just tend to not do that anymore, is fantastic. And then you see shots of the interior and the interior colors. I mean, that blue interior, that is all me. I love funky interior colors, and I think it looks great. I hope that it drives great. I'm excited to watch the Out of Spec review on it. And I believe they did say that it's going to start around 40,000, if not just back, just like all the other 350 and 370Z. They all started generally around 37 or 35,000. It's kind of weird how they've done that. So it's going to be super accessible. I hope that they sell a ton of them, and that will allow Nissan to finally develop a new platform instead of the one they've been using for 25 years.
So here's the question. Do you go 400Z or whatever it's called, Z Proto, Z, Camaro SS, Mustang GT, Supra 4-cylinder, I guess would be in this pricing category, or used Cayman?
Man, you just had to throw the Cayman in there, didn't you?
I know.
You just had to do it.
Well, I think a lot of people are going to go for the used Porsche still.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised.
That's such a different kind of car almost, but like for front engine, rear wheel drive, like classic sports car,
3 pedals.
Yeah, with that's the big thing that separates this from the Supra. I think on paper, monetarily, this seems way less than the 6-cylinder Supra, but the power this holds a candle to the 6-cylinder Supra on paper. This is all on paper. Kyle's
so 6-cylinder Supra is what, 380 rated. This is 400. So on paper, this is faster. But as soon as you drive that 6-cylinder Supra, it's way more than 380.
That's what I'm so
BMW
curious.
Makes a great underrated horsepower motor all the time.
Yes. Well, their job, their history is in making engines. Bavarian Motor Works, they make the best modern engines by far. I think they drive the best. They're the smoothest, best calibrated. The inline 6, the B58, I think is a legendary engine that will go down in the same way a 2JZ has gone down in the past. That thing just screams when you get on it. It's so sweet. And then you get the little burbles and not the crazy pops, but just they're so nice. I was sitting at a restaurant the other day and an X3 M40i went by in presumably Sport Plus mode. And it just went, pop, 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 pop. And then he got on the throttle. I was like, oh, that's nice. And just stock exhaust. And man, that is a great engine. So we're going to have to put that head to head. We will, of course, do the Supra versus Z. The manual transmission makes the Supra a non-starter for me, and it makes this very intriguing. This is a true JDM sports car, designed, engineered, focused from Japan, whereas the Supra is really a Z4. It's a very German car. So this is probably the only true Japanese sports car that you can buy with a manual that's turbocharged, because GR86 isn't turbocharged. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
With a turbocharger would be accurate. Yeah.
Right. That's why I added it in, because I caught myself.
I was going to say there is a Miata.
The Miata, man.
It doesn't have 400 horsepower.
But that's or a third almost. But yeah, this is. First of all, this yellow color is the one I would choose for sure. So the Supras, I mean, I love the 4-cylinder because I felt like it was usable power, and I would have loved it as a manual. The 6-cylinder I loved, but it almost felt more manageable because of the automatic, which is an incredible automatic, by the way. So I would be so curious to drive this with all of its power, like of the 6-cylinder Supra, but with a manual. I think it'd be fun. I mean, the GT350 Mustang with a manual is fun, but it's just different. I wonder if the manual would get in your way at a track, or if you don't think so.
No, the point is not lap times. The point is driving fun and enthusiasm behind the wheel.
Maximum fun.
That's the point of a manual transmission, is for fun. And a good driver, it's going to be not necessarily taking away from the experience or making it slower. It's going to be making them more engaged and more fun and more giggles. So when you see our track review, I'll be clutch kicking it into corners and sending it everywhere. And I can't wait. So excited. I really genuinely do fear that with the manual transmission going away, I will also miss the love of driving new cars. I will be stuck in this like early to mid 2000s world where I have to have this enthusiast mobile in the garage to, share what I love about cars. And then, doing our job, reporting on cars every day, focusing on electric mobility much of the time. Does this really pique my passion? The answer is no. So is it just going to feel like work? I don't know. This is what I live for, is to drive stuff like this, not the crazy hyper cars. I could care less. There's a McLaren in the press fleet. I would take this over that all day long.
The manual will disappear, and then Kyle will go into accounting or something. He's over cars.
Kyle will literally go into mental craziness, but that's okay. I can always buy a used one. So that's the benefit.
Yeah.
What's up next?
They're all just going to get more expensive now.
Well, If 40,000 is still too much for you, we have the GR86 now making headlines because all the embargoes have dropped for those videos. People basically got to get some track time, got experience behind the wheel, both the automatic, and it is again a car with a manual, which is exciting. I want to get you guys' thoughts on this. I guess I can start because I've been so polarized back and forth. Same with the Supra, actually. When Toyota had the concept back in like 2014, whatever that was, I loved it. And the Supra came out, was unveiled. I didn't really love the looks. I was underwhelmed. And then seeing it in person and driving it, I completely changed my mind. I think this is going to be the same way. Seeing the photos of this car, the renderings of the 86, it doesn't really grab my attention. It almost seems like muted in some ways, like they went too conservative on it. But I think once I see it in person, which is what a lot of people have said, I will probably like it a lot more.
It looks like a Honda Civic Coupe in the back.
Yep, those taillights for sure.
And I mean, do looks really matter? Isn't this a car all about driving and enthusiast motoring rather than
looks matter? Looks matter with cars.
Looks matter.
Looks matter for me.
Oh.
I have a tremendous, probably way too much or interest in looks. Like I'll buy a super gorgeous car if it drives terribly and just enjoy driving it around because people are looking at it. But I think that's the reason for this car is the FRS 86 BRZ was such a driver's car, but they had the issue with the torque dip, which mostly came from journalists. Most owners I know don't care at all. But journalists who are trained to look for these things actually notice it. And there was genuinely, if you look at the torque curve, a torque dip kind of early on and later on even in the torque curve, versus this one seems to have fixed that and also added more power, slightly more displacement. And I think they have done a really good job with it, again, on paper, but also based on what some people have been saying on their video reviews. But I can't wait to get my hands on this because it's kind of a Miata, but a little bigger and probably better on track. It just has a bit more power. It's not a convertible, which makes it legal with all tracks, unlike the Miata. You have to do roll bar and stuff on the Miata versus this is probably fine for most tracks. But I like it. The interior doesn't really, I don't care about the interior. I actually don't like it that much.
Well, what Toyota has a good interior? None of them.
Yeah,
that is true. Even a limited platinum Highlander has a terrible interior.
Yeah, they look great on the outside. I think some of them look good. Some of them look really funky. But then you get on the inside, and it's just like buttons exploded in all the wrong places. With every Toyota, there's no cohesiveness. Mike, didn't you have a car? What was it? We were driving one of your cars back in the day, years ago, that had like this mid-range torque dip. What was it?
It was I had a 2016 WRX.
Oh, that's right.
Not the STI, but it was WRX. It's the 2-liter turbo. It's the first, second year of that motor. And I remember we were on Tail of the Dragon, which is a road out in western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee. And you would get up to about like 4,400 RPM to about 4,900 RPM, and the power just fell off. It's like the turbo just stopped spooling, and then it was just nothing.
Weird. The worst factory calibration
ever.
Yeah,
and that's really what I felt driving just the BRZ or FRS. The originals was the same top end power dull. Like you feel like you're surging, and then it was just someone poured fire on the flame, and that was it.
So can I ask you, since we're talking about cars, and we'll just pause sort of our news coverage for a second, how's your E-Tron doing? Because you have an E-Tron, I guess 55 would be the name, the code name, the big battery, all-wheel drive, only available in the US, because there's also a new E-Tron I kind of want to talk about. But what's it like driving your E-Tron today, your car?
I mean, it's easy. I mean, it's an electric car. Of course it's easy. You get in, you turn on, you hit the power button. In this car that still has a power button. It's not like a Tesla. You put your foot on the brake or anything like that, or a Polestar. Put it in gear on the weird, kind of a funky shifter, and just drive. And it's comfortable. It is more than fast enough, but I don't have any exceeding desire to drive my E-Tron fast. I just like cruising around, relaxing in my little cocoon. I can't hear anything on the outside, and I just drive to work. I get to work. I put it in park. And then before I go to lunch or before I go home, I precondition the cabin and get in it and just drive. I mean, it's basically it's a utensil for me. That
Yeah,
Very, very cushy one.
Yeah, it is very cushy. The air suspension is spot on, even in efficiency mode, slammed to the ground, which is basically how I drive it all the time because it just looks better.
You can only actually fully lower the car in efficiency mode. Dynamic goes to setting 2, doesn't it?
Yeah, dynamic does raise it up 1.
Yeah, man, that car just looks so good. I saw one the other day. You have to get it in white. I just think in white.
Yeah, mine's pearl white.
Yep, it just looks amazing. You get, I don't know. I still don't like your wheels. I know you like your wheels, but I think you need the big prestige wheels. And even better than your E-Tron, though, is the new E-Tron S. It's not new for the world. It's been a 3-motor, spicy version of the E-Tron in Europe, our forbidden fruit, if you will. And it's finally coming to the US. I'm so excited about it. Torque vectoring, a drifting mode in an Audi family SUV just seems insane to me. But since you understand the character of your E-Tron, is it worth the extra money? It's $90,000. By the time you start looking at this car, if you're going to get a sporty e-tron, do you think you just get an e-tron GT?
So, yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. So you can get a loaded prestige model 55 e-tron, which is going to be the same money as the S. And I'm sure the S will probably end up being more expensive. I don't know if they're going to have trim levels on it yet or not.
They will. They'll have a regular or like the mid spec and then the prestige. It's
premium
like $5,000. Premium Plus and Prestige. It's $84,900 and then $89,900, I think.
Oh, okay. So it's almost the same money as a Prestige base.
They're going to have to drop the price of the non-S ones, I think.
I don't know. Who knows? I mean, they lease out so well. Before the market got crazy, they leased out really well. But I just don't know if you need a 70 or 7,000 pound drift machine.
No, does anyone really? I mean, it seems pretty cool, doesn't it?
I just can imagine the tire expense. But I've never felt the need for this type of car. Like any kind of hot SUV has always seemed kind of silly, in my opinion. Like, oh, let me get the big GLS63 AMG.
Which you won't be able to get anymore because no more V8s.
Yep.
I mean, the Lamborghini Urus is like the best car they make, isn't it?
Actually, it is, yeah.
I don't know. Come on. That's just a Cayenne with a tune.
It looks better than Cayenne.
Oh, no, it's so showy. I don't like the way it looks at all. I mean, you just know that the person rolling up is a complete asshat when they get out of an Urus. It's like how to make me never want to talk to you. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe people don't want me to talk to them. They'll just buy Uruses everywhere. But
they already do.
All of my neighbors now will be driving Uruses. But no, so you think I'm in agreement with you, Mike. I don't think it's worth to get it to get the S. It's maybe going to be technically possible on paper and very fast and interesting, but I think you just get the comfortable one. The e-tron's so good at being comfortable.
I mean, I think if you're driving on a lot of secondary roads, having that torque vectoring thing is going to be nice. It's going to makes driving just more enjoyable. Having the things like kind of flow around the turns. Have you driven torque vectoring, Kyle?
Oh yeah, plenty of times.
Okay.
But it's cool. It's magical when you're on the limit. If you're just cruising around, though, you really don't feel it. If I'm honest, in most cars.
I mean, is that a similar argument to like the new Model S? Like Plaid takes it to the next level, but if you just get the long range one, you save a ton of money. You still get the interior that everyone's talking about. You just don't have the tiny little Plaid badge on the back or the excessive acceleration.
I mean,
but that tiny little Plaid badge makes you feel not so tiny, if you know what I mean. So it's
just watch Doug DeMuro's review about 34 minutes in. Yeah.
The review of all reviews. I really enjoyed it. Domenick, did you see his review of the
I did.
Model
I watched
S?
the whole thing. Yeah.
What did you think?
I just did too.
I thought it was a good review. I thought it was great, and it was great that he nailed it for the first time, like on video like that, because the reaction it was like priceless. It's like,
well, it's so funny because he finished the review saying, "I completely forgot to talk about self-driving. I was just so caught up in the acceleration."
Right. I mean, we don't really hear about self-driving anyway.
Yeah, plenty
Not
of
really
other
self-driving.
people commenting on the driver assistance functions of the Tesla.
But I would take the long range over the Plaid just because it's almost as much car. It's like looks almost the same. I guess the Plaid, he was saying, it looks like a little wider or something.
Yeah,
It
they
has
did
a
a
really
slight,
noticed
they did
before,
a
but-
slight fender flare if you compare them side
Yeah.
by side,
Okay,
but it's very subtle.
right. But for the extra cash, well, yeah, I can't really justify it personally, but
I think you get a dual motor, long range, and then a race car for the weekend.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, for that price gap. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you
So-
could buy a lot of Porsche race car for that money.
Yeah.
Or-
So
a Cayman
Right.
for sure.
when we saw the Z, it made me think again of the Amira, because that's also getting a 6-cylinder with a manual. I'd be curious. I know they're not in the same price bracket and probably not the same market, but I would be curious to see how those are. I know Lotus is just a whole separate league, but I don't know.
Well, we'll see. Maybe the Nissan will surprise us. Everything Nissan's been doing has been surprising us.
Yeah.
Their Rogue, amazing. Sentra, amazing. Pathfinder, pretty good. Frontier blows away any mid-sized truck, including Tacoma. I mean, they are just absolutely tearing up the market right now, as they need to do to survive. And hopefully the Z is, that's an indication that this car will be good. Is it going to be as sharp as an Amira? Well, probably not. And Amira looks cooler, and it's a Lotus. But short supply.
Same horsepower though.
Is the Amira 400 horsepower with the 6-cylinder?
Yeah.
Wow. And forced induction. I'd rather have a supercharger all day long anyway. So
I'd be curious. But yeah, the JDM lover in me is so for the Z. But yeah, Nissan has really impressed me. I mean, the Pathfinder just had a little more power. That would be up there with the Frontier for me.
I think all of our power things, like if you just drive them at sea level, they're fine. I think we are just on that cusp on whatever Nissan's designing into their cars, where they just are a bit too slow where we are. But at sea level, they're fine.
That's the CVT.
Well, yeah, no CVT in Frontier or Pathfinder, though.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Really. So, yeah, I mean, I think, I also wanted to mention, while we're sort of taking a break from news, my mom sold her Model Y. And
Yes.
just on a whim, they were just driving around in their Tesla going out to lunch or something. And they pulled into the Porsche dealer. And my mom's like, I used to have a Macan. Mike, you remember her Macan spec,
Oh,
right?
I do. It was a fantastic spec. Great spec S.
Yeah, really had everything, torque vectoring, all the Porsche acronyms, Porsche beverage handling system, or just anything you can imagine had it. Awesome car. And so she decided she wanted another Macan. Somehow, like a base 4-cylinder one piqued her interest. I don't know. She doesn't drive fast, and she claims the 4-cylinder is just as peppy, so that's fine. And she made $6,000 trading in her Model Y. And she's so much happier in the Macan. And so it just goes to show that, a lot of people think once you have a Tesla, you can't drive anything else. Well, here's just a general person who drives from A to B, doesn't really think about their car, but just wants a heated steering wheel and a really comfortable, nice, premium looking and feeling vehicle. And she much prefers the Porsche, and she saved money. So that worked out well.
Does Macan have massaging seats?
No, I think she has had cars with massaging seats, and she did like them. And you can spec massage in the Macan, I believe.
I don't know if Ben was here to be able to tell us. I'm not sure if that's a Macan or Cayenne step up ability,
but I was specking out new Macans and stuff. So turbo is gone from Macan range.
Yep.
So base is really pretty much the same. And then for 2022, S is now like an older GTS. And now the GTS is the turbo version, and turbo's completely gone, which I think is fair, because personally, I think Macan is the worst driving Porsche in the lineup. Not to say it's bad. I just would have a new Cayenne over a new Macan, and I think it actually drives better. And so, my mom just wanted to say she's very happy with her new blue Porsche, cruising the streets of Florida right now. And the Model Y is sitting at an auction house in Florida with like 0 range. Yeah, 12 miles of range sitting at the auction house.
That poor battery.
They need to put something in that. They can't. Oh.
They need to plug that thing
I told my dad when they traded in, I'm like, Dad, just go supercharge it up to like 70%.
Yeah.
And then let them have it.
He knows
And
better.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, well, they'll do it. They said they'll just bring it over to the charger. Meanwhile, we get all the like charge battery now. It's gonna fail notifications on our phone. So poor car.
Well, going back real quick to your mom's Model Y there. So the used market on Model 3, Model Y is incredibly frustrating to look at. Basically, if you have access to look at auction data, they're all selling for more than, or at least $5,000 to $4,000 more than sticker, or then you could just go out and order a new one, basically. Right. Minus full self-driving, because no one knows how to value that because it's not a feature yet.
Translates zero to the used market.
But it is crazy. And then people are paying, like I know I've seen used Model 3s, 19s, 18s selling, long ranges selling for almost the same price as a new one with 30, 40,000 miles on them. Not to mention then you get a 21 with 90,000 miles on it.
Now, if you're going to sell your car, now's the time to sell it, man.
Yeah, well, okay. Let me just paint the picture here. This is a enthusiast owned, well cared for, garage kept, high mileage, but easy miles, 90,000 mile Tesla Model 3 Performance, perfect specifications, showstopper. It is midnight silver, white seats,
PPF,
brand new brakes, brand new control arms. I'd put the stock wheels back on. And what do you think I could get for that, Mike? You think it's a $45,000 piece?
I know like Ben has a Model 3 Performance, and I know that car is worth like low 50s, which is like more than his was new because it was a stealth performance.
Yeah.
So your car's the same year and just has triple the miles on it or something crazy.
Right. Yeah.
But miles don't seem to affect value as much on a Tesla as they do on a traditional ICE motor. I mean, obviously there's a lot less maintenance and you put new control arms in it, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's never been in for maintenance until now. Behind me, it's all apart.
I mean, it's probably worth in the low 40s, I would imagine.
I think there's a car deal brewing here. I'm getting bored of it. I really am. I don't like to drive it anymore. I am ready for something new, and we got to make it happen.
I mean, there's so many alternatives on the market now compared to when you had bought it.
I'd get a Taycan Cross Turismo.
Yeah, I mean, Porsche.
I would just order a 4.
Like
I'd get a base
Audi
Cross Turismo with all the performance options, and I'd get Neptune Blue with white seats.
Ooh.
Would you get rear steering?
Yes.
Okay.
I would need rear steering on the Taycan. I would need drive, rear steer. I don't really care about the power. An EV, to me, doesn't really need to be crazy fast. Plus, I get to test drive all the latest stuff, so that's fine. Need something I can put the dogs in, of course. And I would just get, premium. I'd want the massage cooled seats, of course. I think I'd skip the passenger display, even though I think it's kind of cool. Waste of money. Get the best headlights.
I agree.
And big wheels. And that's it.
Best headlights.
The best headlights that you can't use in America. Got it.
I know. That's the thing. But we got to find someone to. So that's interesting. You can spec like laser lights on Audis and the better headlights in Porsche, but your light output is identical to the base one. You need to literally have someone code your car. Which, remember, Mike, on my M3, I did that. How amazing that was.
I remember. Yeah, driving down the highway, and it would highlight the road signs on the side with the high beams on. You could see it move. It was incredible. It was the first time I've ever experienced like that Matrix style headlight, and I was blown away. And that should be available here. It's more safe to have that light than it is our antiquated laws that we have in place.
So you can code cars to get better light performance?
Yeah. So basically, if you have the hardware in there, you just unlock the Euro version. So you just put a left-hand drive Euro country's profile in the car and set it back to miles per hour. It's good to go.
See, I was only aware of that with like the BMW i3. They code those to get the
every BMW can easily be coded
to kick in earlier, so it doesn't run out of power when you're going down the highway.
Yep, I did that with
more
ours.
Fuel.
Yep, did that with ours.
Fuel tank.
Yep, but Volkswagen Audi Group products can be coded too. Mercedes is pretty hard to code, because I have some weird things with my Sprinter that I was trying to find someone to, and some dude in India was like, "Oh, I got this for you." I'm like, I don't really know if I want you connecting to my car if you think you can do this. So,
why not?
Yeah.
Where's your sense of adventure?
Mike could make a good video bricking my Sprinter.
Yes, all the
That would
clicks.
be expensive. And there's like a 4-month wait at any Mercedes dealer to get that thing serviced right now because of all the van recalls for the emissions stuff on this engine. So there's like, it would be next year before I could drive it again. Yeah, so no, all pretty good stuff going on here. I think if I need to look into making this Model 3 deal happen, I kind of am looking for something new. Having a car for 2 years for me is a really long time. Mike can't keep a car more than a week, it seems. And so
I struggle for the 6-month mark usually.
Yeah. Press cars help sort of lull this down.
I think they would. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I have a Polestar 2 this week, which will be really nice to spend some time with.
I love that car.
Do you?
Really?
So would you go Polestar 2 or XC40?
Polestar 2. I just want the
Really?
bigger 11-inch Google touchscreen in it. And I just like the full glass roof. And I know the XC40 gets that, but I like the Polestar. I think it looks better than the XC40. And it feels more special.
100%.
Yeah. But Domenick, you were saying owners were having some issues with this platform.
Yeah, there's a lot of little glitchy things with the electronics. Sometimes some lights don't work. It was all like really kind of weird glitchy stuff, and I'm not even sure how much some updates will work them out. I mean, maybe some would go away, but if you go in like the owners groups on Facebook or wherever, you're going to find a lot of grumbling about like glitchy software, which is not ideal for a new car company, new car brand. I mean, they have the great styling, it kind of makes up for a lot, but the cars have to be, they have to work. And then a lot of people have, cars or XC40. I think there are more complaints I've saw about the XC40 than Polestar 2, but
that's what I was going to say. The XC40, I see complaints. I'm in a couple, or at least one of those groups on Facebook, because I was thinking about buying one before the E-Tron, and there is a lot of complaints. A lot of it is kind of niggly, and most of it seems to be just glitches, like Domenick was saying. Nothing that's really impacted the drivability of the car. It's just the little stuff that makes it nice to live with every day is frustrating.
Yeah, and that's what bugs me about this stuff. So many EV automakers are like, we're going to be fully electric, like Volvo, for example, right? Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, their first electric car is now, and they can't even get it right. So they're like, we've committed, and they're like, can't even get one car to work well. Like, this is crazy to me.
It's almost like they have to go through this like trial by fire, like, because I don't know. Every automaker is like that. I mean, Ford had their issues, even with the Mustang Mach-E a little bit, somewhat. But their first electric, what was that?
The Focus Electric.
The Focus Electric. I mean, that was like a contract job, and like somebody, had a subcontractor, design and put it together and make it, I think, for them. And yeah, I mean, some people had good luck with them, but they were still like a very compromised vehicle. I don't know. There's a lot of birthing pains with new electric vehicles.
Well, Jordan queued up this story right on time. Polestar is going down market by offering a 2-wheel drive version, and it's front-wheel drive, by the way.
By down market, he means front-wheel drive.
Yeah, 100%. So, like, there was a whole bunch of confusion over this on Twitter. Everyone's like, well, isn't it better in the snow? And, what's wrong with front-wheel drive? And, like, I'm wrong because somehow front-wheel drive is acceptable on a chassis that already has an accommodation for a rear drive unit. No, this is terrible. It's really bad. I don't know how else to explain this. Driving dynamics are an important part of any car, regardless of if it's an enthusiast vehicle or not. So I thought this would have been an opportunity for Polestar to differentiate their brand identity as a performance brand identity up until this very point, to have a rear-biased, rear-wheel drive type vehicle. Front-wheel drive EVs suffer from torque steer, from tires having trouble gripping. They just make so much torque so quickly. You drive any Nero EV, any Kona EV, it's super dangerous when it's wet outside, truthfully. And I don't know. We'll have to see how it's implemented here. I don't want to say it's going to just spin the tires everywhere. Maybe magically it won't. To me, not super interested in the front wheel drive version, but it does save a considerable cost, and it's going to really be a solid entry point of right around that low $40,000 range before credits. in the front wheel drive base version. There's a lot of options and packages, and to get adaptive cruise control, you're going to need the option of like a $4,000 or $5,000 package. That's crazy. That should be standard on this car. I don't know. That's stupid. But the dual motor version's cool, and if you option up another package, you'll get a heat pump, which will lead to a little bit better efficiency, especially in cold weather, which it sounds like this really needs. Also, I haven't tested the current charging profiles. I will this weekend, of course, but when this car first came out a year ago, by the way, it's been a full year since this car has been in the US, the cars basically would not charge unless the batteries were warm. They were horribly slow in the cold weather charging tests. So I remember XC40 Recharge had a rep driving around the East Coast, and she was getting like 20 or 25 kilowatts consistently on like a 60-degree day. I'm like, oh my God, like just drive that thing, yo-yo it down the street and plug it in, and then it shot right up. So yeah, this is an interesting car. I really don't think it's holistically thought through. It's built on Volvo's CMA, compact modular architecture chassis, which is designed to accommodate a full combustion gas or diesel engine, a mild hybrid system, a plug-in hybrid system, and full battery electric, which is just too much for a chassis to be able to do, I think. And it's not optimized for anything.
Right. Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
And their engineers are really dumb for putting a front motor in it. Everyone will disagree with me on Twitter, I guess, but they're dumb.
Well, they're wrong.
Well,
yeah, totally.
I mean, you touched on it. I mean, I think the bigger reason why Polestar should have made this car rear-wheel drive is to just differentiate themselves from their parent company. I mean, you're marking yourself as a performance brand, as you mentioned. What is performance spec about a front-wheel drive sedan?
I mean, if you had a big motor sitting over the front wheels and you could get more traction, that'd be great. But with a flat battery, the weight's distributed evenly. So when you hit the accelerator, the weight's shifting to the back. So the best traction is on the rear wheels. So that's where it should be getting the power.
Yeah, that's the snow argument. People say, "Oh, you need front wheel drive in the snow." Well, yes, if it's an ice, if you have an engine above those front wheels, otherwise you're having the opposite effect. So
yeah, it's like a 911 rear wheel drive is amazing in the snow. People daily drive GT3s on studded tires in Germany because you have the rear motor over the rear wheels.
Right.
Because
the tires are just as important, if not more important. I mean, so the first day I got my driver's license, I was driving my family to church. The first time we had a 77
in Canada.
77 Plymouth Fury. So it was snowing.
Yes.
It's a huge car, and there was like five of us in it. So yeah, the first turn, car goes sideways, of course, and it was like maybe 300 yards from the house. So yeah, we're sideways. But I grew up driving stone wheels. It was like nothing, and that was it. It's like it's not even drama. It's like the smallest little bit of things. But you got good snow tires. Correct. You get out of that, and you're fine.
Yeah, tires definitely. I mean, Kat and I both grew up in Connecticut, and snow tires up there were definitely made the biggest difference on any car. I know plenty of people who've driven rear-wheel drive cars year-round because they just swap out their set of tires, which now that I live in the South, I mean, most people don't need two sets of tires on their car to begin with because if it snows, nothing's open anyway. But exactly, tires make the biggest difference. But either way, Polestar messed it up. Hopefully on their full design new platform car, they fix it.
We'll find out.
Polestar 3, and they also have the Precept. They're doing good things. I'm going to a Polestar Space on Friday. We're going to see how the purchase experience goes. I really have high hopes, but this front wheel drive thing just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. They had a great opportunity to differentiate the brand, and it shows the brand's future is not in the same direction as when Volvo acquired it, which was to become the performance tuner upgrade of the Volvo vehicles. So yeah, to me, it's a little bit disappointing. I hate to say it. And, but that shouldn't take away from the dual motor all wheel drive variants. Those are going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, those are great.
Oh, yeah. And plus they all look really great.
Yep, I agree. Styling,
especially performance pack ones with the Olean suspension, the brakes on gold and the seat belts. Oh, I love the gold seat belts.
Gold seat belts. Yeah.
I saw a V60 Polestar on my way into work this morning, and I was like, oh, I know it's not full electric, but at the top of the list.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, if it's basically a Taycan half off for me, and it kind of does the same thing. And like, I just love that car more than most. My friend here in town has. Well, I'm friends with him because of his V60 Polestar. Of course, he has a really nice white one, and he just rips it everywhere. It's awesome.
Well, I wanted to talk about the Genesis GV60, which is honestly pretty new news as of right now, as of the recording. But what piqued my interest too was, I don't know, Kyle, how you felt about the G80 we had as a press car, but that was one of the most surprising we had. Like, I went into it literally not that excited. I was like, okay, I'm just going to get this over with. And then I couldn't stop driving it. And it wasn't even the big engine. Like, it was just such a nice place to be. It was comfortable. And I thought it looked fantastic. This GV60 is somewhat a departure in the looks. I mean, I see the Genesis branding. They have the same.
Can you pull up a picture of it? Because I haven't seen it yet.
They have the same
really?
dual headlights and everything. So I see the similarities, but it also looks slightly weird to me. Like, I don't know.
This is the same thing as a Kia EV6 and Ioniq 5, just for Genesis, right?
I think it looks like a melted EV6.
So let's go through the specs really quick. Domenick, can you take us through the highlights of the EV powertrain stuff before we judge styling?
Well, if I knew them off the top of my head, the thing that really sticks out for me for this is, I'm thinking it's like generally like a 300-mile car, and with really super fast charging. Like, it's like an 18 minutes to 80% kind of charging. So it's getting close to gas cars when you're driving it,
but it's 800 volt system architecture from Hyundais of the past. It's, we know they're crazy efficient cars for being electric. We know it's going to have more than adequate acceleration, I'm sure. But this car, or at least Genesis to this past, has not been a performance brand. It's been a complete departure from anything performance related. It's been more about just giving you a luxury and premium feel for not so much the luxury and premium price. Here, though, this is way too trendy to follow with Genesis's design language. I think those stick-on mirror things, those aren't coming to the US, obviously. We'll have normal mirrors. Those are really freaking ugly. I hate to say that.
So we're looking at the interior screen inside.
Yeah.
Look at those side view screens, man. They're not integrated. They're just
that's what I'm saying. It's so bad.
Yeah, I don't get the trend of that. Like, I think that's awful to have a camera. Like, you can't move it. You can't. I mean, you're stuck looking at that
range,
one.
It's for aero.
Right.
Yeah.
Aerodynamics. I haven't tried it myself. I've heard actually good things about them, but it's hard to get around the idea of, if you've driven with like actual mirrors all your life and really use them. It's kind of.
It is a good looking 2-spoke steering wheel. I'll give it that. That's hard to do.
Yeah, I
love the
other than the screens on the side, other than the mirror screens, I actually love the interior. I love the interior of the Genesis G80, GV80. Like, they're all doing really good interiors lately. The infotainment was awesome. It all worked.
Sound system was banging, wasn't it?
Yeah, the sound system by Lexicon was phenomenal. So I'm excited to see what this is like in person. I think it's going to be a very well built interior. Like Kyle said, I asked my wife CJ when we got in the G80 when I picked it up from Kyle's house. I said, "How much do you think this is?" And she was like, $85. And it was like, what?
And it was
50?
so cheap. It was like 40 something, wasn't it?
It was just like high 40s, low 50s.
Yeah, I think it was back with 50.
Damn, I was so impressed.
Yeah,
the value for money on that car. One of my neighbors just got a GV80, and the presence of that thing coming down the road, just literally, I passed it on my way to my house. I'm like, whoa! Like, let me move my smart car out of the way, sir. I am so sorry for being near you. Pretty amazing looking car and very reasonably priced. Here's though, I think it's just as ugly as the EV6. And, and why would you make a Genesis bright yellow? This is make it brown.
Let's look at the profile for a second. Oh, I should point out too, there's a boost button on the steering wheel. So I'm suspecting that it's going to have like probably higher performance than the Ioniq 5 out of the gate. And
but maybe not as much as EV6.
Yeah, EV6 is supposed to be pretty hot. Yeah. But
that is terrible. It looks like a jelly bean.
Like, what is going on?
I like the a pillar forward maybe, but
I could get on board with that.
I don't mind. I like the back glass, but I don't understand little it looks like a Tesla T almost cut out.
Not feeling it.
And they didn't
pillar.
do the side, the turn signals on the new Genesis G80 like are the same dual element. It's just an interesting thing on the side, and they didn't do that here.
Well, the
but their
GV60 doesn't have
design.
that.
And remember, Genesis had their electric design concept recently. We spoke about it on the Inside EVs podcast, a amazing podcast that blows this one out of the water every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Sometimes I get the times mixed up and I don't make it. That car, for being a concept, which I really don't place too much value on, looked incredible. And that was supposed to be the design language of Genesis moving forward, having these very tactile touch points and these premium blending of natural materials, but with modern design. This just looks like a spaceship that was designed by teenagers that's bright yellow.
Right.
The inside does not match the outside to me.
Yeah, no.
I don't think it matches the Genesis brand at all.
There's some elements of the back that I kind of like, but then none of it comes together at all.
It's very incohesive.
It's very frustrating.
Overall.
But aside from the design, you can buy an Ioniq 5, which looks amazing because it's like super retro 1980s. The powertrain's going to be pretty much second to none. It's going to charge like a monster, and you're going to have great range, great efficiency. Your overall ownership experience is probably going to be incredible with this car, regardless of the design.
Sure. I agree. I'm looking very much forward to this thing.
Genesis says it is called Athletic Elegance.
It does look like a running shoe a bit.
In that color, yeah.
Yikes. Well, another EV. Well, I can't even call this an EV. I don't know. I just had to throw this in there because I'm a huge Lego enthusiast. And we were talking about the Supra. And yes, in Legoland Japan, they have a full 1:1 scale of the GR Supra built out of 500,000 Lego bricks. We've seen this before with the Bugatti Chiron and a couple other cars in the past. But I love it when they do this. And if you haven't seen it, look at it's on YouTube. There's almost like a mini documentary of the development of the Lego Bugatti. Totally worth your time. And that shows you kind of what they do to develop these kind of things. And I don't know. I just think this is so cool. It's obviously not.
It drives, doesn't it?
Yeah, it goes 17 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Chiron only went 12 miles an hour. So
Supra's faster than a Chiron.
Faster than a Chiron.
You heard it here first.
Yeah,
there we go. That's an article that we should write on something we're not going to announce yet. It should be the Supra is officially faster than the Chiron.
Yeah, I'll compare it to the Honda.
Great, accurate looking Lego, by the way. These things have so much texture. Oh, can you go down really quick? You see that Fast and Furious Supra right there?
Yeah.
There's a guy here in Colorado who owns a replica version of this, and a drunk driver just totally destroyed the car.
Ooh.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Very sad.
Yeah.
That's my news of the day. What else we got? We got to wrap up the show. We're kind of hitting our time limit here.
Yeah, no. One more thing I wanted to throw in really quick. Kyle owns a van, as most of us know. VanLab is a company that is basically like building out camper van with pre-made components. So a lot of people, especially in Boulder, kind of where I live, that area, there's vans everywhere, like literally in the streets. Kyle brings his van to Boulder and he just fits right in. Yeah. But so many of those vans, which is a huge variety of vans, they also custom build their interiors. I mean, the guy next to me when I lived in Boulder had a garage. He rented a garage, not a house. He just rented a garage in a series of houses, just a weird standalone garage. And he was building out things in his van all the time. So this company is actually doing like pre-fit, like for certain van types, components that will fit into the van. I thought it was kind of interesting because Kyle's van, I mean, came ready to camp in, but a lot of people are buying basically empty Sprinter vans or Nissan vans and just want to like build their own. But as you know, a lot of people kind of fizzle out when they do DIY projects. So this is kind of a way to do a DIY look, and it still technically is, but it's all prefab. So
what a stellar idea. This is crazy. I had no idea this existed. This is amazing because some of those high value components that require real craftsmanship, engineering, mounting positions need to be done by a company. But you can't just go to a company that says, can I just buy your sink from Winnebago? You have to like buy the whole van. So this is awesome. I really think we should reach out to them. Maybe we can share some of their stuff. Jordan, you and I are going to, well, I know you're going, I don't know if we'll go together. We're going to at least be at the same show this weekend, which is Overland Expo West, something like that.
Yeah, I think this was called Van Expo.
Yeah, there's like a whole revel section. So we're going to meet all the other revelers, owners of our same van. But I also want to see what other people are doing with their vans, because my whole goal in this van series is to build either a plug-in hybrid, but preferably a fully electric off-grid camping solution. Right now, the technology doesn't reach there. I don't think it's really that possible, but I want to immerse myself in this world so we can be the first ones doing this, hopefully a little bit more sustainably, or at least with an interesting flair. That's going to be an amazing show. We're going to film a lot of vans. Jordan, you're going to write about it, I think, so lots of photos and stuff. So keep an eye out on that from our side.
Yeah, it's awesome. And yeah, they have the NV200 from Nissan, the Chevy City Express, the Ford Transit. They're working on the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, and I'm sure many others. Like, I really hope this succeeds, because I hope they build out more ideas and more fits for other vans, maybe not even the super popular ones, because I think this would sell really well, of course, depending on pricing. But I don't know. It's really intriguing. And I mean, Kyle, you can speak to this. The whole VanLab concept is a very freeing thought. I mean, the fact that you can just drive your van across the country to an event and just not worry about hotel accommodations.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? So it's very freeing, but it's not very free to buy. These vans are stupid money. That basically start at $100,000 for the worst garbage one you can buy. So like 100 is your ceiling, and they go up to close to $300,000, and you're going to end somewhere in the middle. So this hopefully will allow people to buy FedEx vans, used, whatever, and not necessarily need the technical or craftsmanship capability to build out their own. They can do it. Like, I think I would have actually been really attracted to something like this, where I could buy a shell and then we could do a series building it out, like, because I'm not that handy, but I can screw stuff in. Like, that's cool. I'll do some of the manual labor. Just send me the parts. I'll put it together like an IKEA couch. Great idea. Really is stellar.
Yeah, and the kits start around $5,000 apparently. Or
That's
cheap. Right here, I'm on their website.
That's reasonable. Yeah,
starts at $8,000 for a Ford Transit long wheelbase. And then
you can get the wiring loom too. That's cool.
Yeah,
they are going to sell a ton of these. This is the new jam. We have to reach out to them. We're going to do a thing. This is awesome.
Yeah, I just maxed out this one in particular, and it's under 9,000. That's
you know how much the conversion was on my van? It's over $130,000 aside from the van, just in them converting it.
And they gave you carbon fiber, like
they gave me the word. It's not even a good conversion. Everything's built like crap in there.
Yeah.
Man, this is so much the way to go.
Just had to throw that in there before we ended, because
I appreciate
that. We are doing van stuff, and I'm very excited about it. I need to take your van at some point, Kyle.
Is the jam. Other RVs. Oh, so cool. So cool.
Right. With work from home being such a big thing now, you pull up to a Starbucks Wi-Fi, you sit in your van, you do your day's work, you travel to the next town. It's something that I would like to try that. Personally, I would like to.
Yeah.
Well, you should take our van sometime, Domenick. Come on out, live with it for a little while. Starlink is going to be the game changer. Once we have good internet on this thing, you'll never see me at home.
Take it on tour. You could do a whole world tour.
Just visit.
That'd be great.
Make it happen. Let's do it. Use it anytime. Seriously.
All right. Well, we are coming up on just over an hour now. I wanted to say thanks for tuning in. We have lots of content out of spec on our Twitter, as well as YouTube, lots of channels. We're just throwing stuff out there everywhere. Written stuff, which is ramping up now. You can find me at Twitter at Jordan_Schiefer. Of course, we have Domenick from the Inside V's. Thank you, Domenick, for coming on. That's Domenick_Y on Twitter. Mike is M_Breeling. And of course, Kyle it's Kyle Connor. So thank you very much for joining us. We had a fun time tonight, and we'll see you in the next one very soon.